Welcome back to the storm, Yellowstone devotees. Are you really prepared to return to the chaos that established the Dutton Empire? Season 3 of 1923 marks the conclusion of the story, which not only revisits the past, but also threatens to completely rewrite it. Do you know anything about the Duttons? After that, get ready to reevaluate everything you thought you knew. The year is 1925, and the Duttons' bloody legacy is falling apart more quickly than ever. The Yellowstone dynasty is brought to its knees by explosive revelations, twisted alliances, and the shocking emergence of a long-lost heir. As shadows from the Roaring Twenties darken into the despair of the Great Depression, Season 3 of 1923 doesn't just turn the page, it tears through it, rewriting the family's history with a fury that threatens to dismantle it all. Jacob and Kara Dutton are at the center of the storm because they are clinging to their ranch and way of life in the face of enemies who come armed not only with guns, but also with the law, politics, and resentments from previous generations. Donald Whitfield, now governor of Montana, brings with him an empire built on greed and expansionist ambition, and he wants the Yellowstone Ranch at any cost. Kara is left to carry the line on her own, making unthinkable decisions to preserve the family legacy, with Jacob gravely wounded and becoming increasingly aware of his own mortality. However, the Dutton family is also under siege. The land is not the only thing under siege. Season 3 introduces not one but 3 heirs, each threatening to fracture the already splintered family tree. The presumed successor, whose legitimacy is now in question, is John Dutton II. The fragile infant son of Spencer and Alex, born into a family marred by legacy and violence. Margaret Maggie Dutton was Elizabeth's secret child, born in Boston and kept away from the harsh ranching life in Montana. Samuel, Spencer's illegitimate son, who has been raised by a widow in the shadows, joins the story from the margins. The Duttons are forced to confront what it truly means to be a member of the family when his sudden arrival sparks a bitter internal conflict over inheritance, legitimacy, and identity. Meanwhile, the ghosts of the past are not content to remain buried. Spencer is haunted by visions of his family patriarch, James Dutton, and the dark secrets he carried with him, like the Confederate roots and the stolen land on which their empire was built. Spencer is torn between his grief over Alex's death and his duty to his surviving child as he teeters on the brink of giving up the Dutton surname for good. The Crow Elders' 1883 prediction that the land will return to my people in 7 generations reverberates like a distant drumbeat throughout everything. Subtle references to Case, Monica, and young Tate Dutton connect the threads across centuries, suggesting that the Dutton story may be destined for a reckoning far beyond what Jacob and Kara ever imagined. The heart of a family is at the center of Season 3, which is not just about land or cattle. Every character is forced to choose between loyalty to their blood and loyalty to the truth. Every relationship is put to the test as secrets emerge like smoke from a battlefield, and the corrosive burden of legacy eats away at their humanity. Can the sins that built their empire be justified by survival? Or is the Dutton name a curse that must finally be broken? Elizabeth Dutton's storyline deepens the emotional core of the season. She flees west to Boston after Jack's tragic death, where she secretly gives birth to Maggie. Even if it means burying her own identity, she longs to shield her daughter from the brutal cycle that killed the man she loved. However, the family's legacy extends far, even to the continent. When Kara discovers Elizabeth's whereabouts, a desperate letter is sent: come home or risk losing everything. Elizabeth must choose between staying hidden to protect her child and returning to the ranch to risk luring Maggie into a war she swore she would never be a part of. As Kara clings to ruthless pragmatism and Elizabeth wrestles with the trauma of legacy, the emotional stakes spiral. Spencer, devastated by Alex's death and drowning in questions of fatherhood and bloodline, must decide whether to reclaim his place in the family or disappear entirely. And as the season barrels toward its final, breathtaking moments, Whitfield's forces close in, threatening to devour the Yellowstone Ranch from the inside out. Legal wars, military power, and political corruption converge in a firestorm, leaving the Duttons hanging by a thread. Jacob's desperate alliance with the Broken Rock Reservation offers a glimmer of hope, but at what cost? The land itself seems to be demanding blood in the final episode. The Duttons are exposed not as mythical heroes, but rather as a family bound by secrets, guilt, and a legacy that may not be worth saving. Instead, they are torn open. In the 1944 spin-off teaser, an elderly John Dutton II reflects as follows: "We sacrificed what we loved most ourselves to ensure that the ranch would survive." And it's possible that this is the ultimate truth that lies at the heart of 1923 Season 3. The American West was won with more than just grit and guns. It was bought with betrayal, built on bones, and inherited through the scars of those willing to bleed for it. The Dutton name may continue to be used, but at what cost? As the series hints at Maggie's eventual return to Montana in the 1944 spin-off, her existence becomes a loaded narrative device, a ticking time bomb in the Dutton lineage. She is the embodiment of long-buried secrets, the result of violence and love intertwined, and her reappearance poses a threat to the invincibility myth of Dutton. Maggie stands at the intersection of prophecy and blood, her presence destabilizing the patriarchal grip on Yellowstone and foreshadowing future reckonings, both spiritual and political. Jacob Dutton's final days, on the other hand, are marred by illness and reflection. The stubborn rancher who once stoically ruled his land has vanished. The ghosts of the past can be heard whispering through the cottonwoods as a man struggles with the moral debts of building an empire in his place. Jacob makes a controversial and nearly blasphemous move as a final defiance against Donald Whitfield's moral decay and industrial expansion. He crosses the divide and tentatively joins the Broken Rock Reservation. This act is more than just political maneuvering. It is also an acknowledgement of ancient truths that have been denied for a long time. Jacob, whose ancestors seized the land by force, now offers shared trust for stewardship rather than ownership. The agreement is highly symbolic as well as tactical. It is a rare instance of humility in Dutton history, a realization that the land does not truly belong to them. It echoes the Crow Elders' haunting prophecy that the land will one day return to indigenous hands. Jacob's alliance earns Broken Rock's support in the coming war with Whitfield's private militia, but it also sparks fury among hardline ranchers, many of whom see Jacob's gesture as betrayal. It fractures the local community and exposes the brittle foundation of Dutton power. When Jacob dies in Episode 4, Cara Dutton is the only one who can keep the family together and protect the ranch. Her grief hardens into resolve, and her leadership is marked by both maternal tenacity and chilling pragmatism. She assumes the role of Jacob's vision's new guardian, as well as its ominous legacy. Spencer, returning from abroad, finds himself haunted not only by his wartime trauma, but by visions of James Dutton, their Confederate forefather. These visions are not just dreams. Rather, they are calculations. They force Spencer to confront the brutal legacy the Duttons were built upon: war, conquest, and an inheritance soaked in blood. Conflict could arise in the future because of Jacob's fragile agreement. After Whitfield's death, his lieutenants exploit the power vacuum, using his legal manipulations to seize half the Duttons' land. The truce with Broken Rock becomes tenuous at best, uneasy allies now bound by obligation, suspicion, and a fragile dream of coexistence. The ranch teeters on the edge of ruin. Nevertheless, Jacob's sacrifice hints at something larger than the chaos. He sows seeds not only for peace, but also for survival. Tate Dutton, the seventh-generation heir, is the beginning of the story, and his existence is a living response to the prophecy. The legacy Jacob leaves behind is ambiguous, part blessing, part curse. The Dutton dynasty's existential rot is further emphasized by Maggie, Elizabeth's hidden burden. Her daughter is both salvation and damnation. Elizabeth faces Cara, the family's icy-eyed matriarch, in her struggle to safeguard Maggie from the blood-soaked legacy left by the Duttons. Elizabeth's love is fierce and pure, but Jacob's pragmatism lingers in Cara, who sees Maggie not as a child, but a symbol of vulnerability and legacy to be controlled. The choices they make, each woman in her own way, reflect the impossible cost of survival in a world where love and loyalty often lead to ruin. The final episode of Season 3 builds to an operatic crescendo. Kara gathers what is left of the Yellowstone Ranch, a ragtag mix of loyal ranchers, broken rock warriors, and reluctant former enemies, as Montana is on the verge of war. They mount a final defense against Whitfield's mercenaries. The battle is bloody, brutal, and never-ending. Whitfield dies in a blaze, the false kingdom he tried to build being consumed by fire. But the struggle continues despite his passing. His legal legacy, forged in courtrooms and backroom deals, is stronger than any bullet could ever be. Half of the Duttons' land disappears. Standing on ash-covered ground, Kara swears her blood to broken rock. She swears to uphold Jacob's agreement, but she also acknowledges that it is fragile, like spring ice that breaks when it is too heavy. Her resolve becomes the new backbone of the ranch. But even she cannot control the tides of fate. Elizabeth, returning to Montana with Maggie, chooses confrontation over exile. She refuses to run anymore. In a heartbreaking act, she entrusts her daughter to the winds of destiny, hoping Maggie might break the cycle even if she cannot. Elizabeth faces Kara in a terrifying altercation in the Dutton family cemetery. The women were overshadowed by the long shadows cast by the men's grave markers. In order to prevent her daughter from inheriting the curse, Elizabeth demands that Kara remove Maggie's entry from the family records. Absolution is rejected by Kara. She instead offers exile. Maggie will be raised under an alias and sent to the east. Elizabeth will return to help rebuild. "You don't escape this family," Kara growls, pressing a shovel into Elizabeth's hands. "You lie in it or dig its grave." Elizabeth makes the silent promise to Maggie that she will outlive legacy by burying a locket bearing her name. Elsewhere, Spencer, still haunted by Alex's memory and visions of James Dutton's ghost, abdicates his claim to the ranch. With the intention of raising his young son anonymously, he departs Montana with him. His farewell to Kara is a frost-smudged letter left at her door. "I won't let him learn to love a tombstone." The choice severs their bond forever. Yet even this sacrifice doesn't close the book. Samuel, Spencer's illegitimate son, erupts in violence after a bitter fight with the ranch hands over inheritance rights. He disappears into the mountains, blood on the snow, his fate uncertain, a phantom thread bound to the future. The season closes in 1944. An aging John, Aya's voice raspy and trembling, narrates archival footage of the Yellowstone's diminished lands, fences rusted, rivers poisoned by industry. "We survived," he says, "by becoming what we hated." As his words echo, a young woman on horseback rides into view, Maggie, now grown and played by a new actress. Her face is resolute, her eyes unreadable. She rides toward the Dutton homestead, the ghosts of generations at her back. The display goes black. Elsa Dutton's whisper returns, soft and chilling. The land remembers and it's hungry. The Duttons endure, but the cost is staggering. Their empire survives through betrayal, sacrifice, and secrets buried deep in the soil. The prophecy looms ever closer. Tate Dutton's destiny waits on the horizon, a reckoning for all that has come before. The family tree stands gnarled, bleeding, but alive. Its roots poisoned, its branches scorched, but it refuses to fall. One final, haunting leap forward occurs in the concluding moments of the finale, this time to 1944, a war-torn year. In a dimly lit office, the screen opens to a faded surveyor's map lying unrolled on a dusty table. The Yellowstone Ranch's boundaries are now smaller due to decades of legal conflict, shady deals, and bloodshed. A frail, trembling voice overlays the scene. It is John Dutton II who is old, frail, and still distinctively Dutton. His words break like dry wood in a fireplace in the winter. "We lost what made us Dutton, but we kept the land." The camera pans outside as the weight of that line settles. A lone rider emerges as snow drifts sweep across the Montana horizon. It's Maggie, no longer the innocent girl of earlier seasons, but a woman shaped by fire. Now portrayed by Sophia Lillis, she's draped in a long coat lined with fur, her face shadowed by the brim of her hat. The silver locket that her mother wears around her neck catches the morning sun and swings with each hoofbeat. Not only are her eyes burning with pain, but they are also burning with purpose and a resolve forged by betrayal, loss, and the weight of prophecy. She doesn't just ride toward the ranch. She rode into its judgment. And then, just before the screen fades to black, the camera cuts to an old image scorched into the dirt, still visible like a scar left by time itself. The Crow Elder's prophecy, scratched years ago in the sacred earth. 7 generations, and the land will breathe again. Fade to black. Hey, Dutton fervents! If you made it through Season 3's blood-soaked brilliance, you know that this story is far from over. In fact, it's only just beginning. There is more drama coming down the mountain than ever before, with rumors of a 1944 spin-off swirling like Montana dust. The Dutton legacy has always been a powder keg of loyalty, loss, and land. So, if you're as hooked as we are, click the subscribe button, ring the bell, and get ready for weekly breakdowns on every heir, every betrayal, and every secret hidden in the barn rafters that is stained with blood. Want theories? We got 'em. Is Maggie the next true heir to the Yellowstone, or its final warning? What exactly transpired with Samuel? Can the broken, burdened John unravel the curse before it claims them all? Drop your wildest theories in the comments. Is it Maggie's turn now? Or will the land itself decide who lives or dies? This isn't just television. It's a generational war dressed in denim and destiny. Be loud. Keep your pride. Stay Dutton. Because it isn't over yet. Not until the land says it's over. For more updates and deep dives into the Dutton legacy, subscribe to our channel on Nextdoor. The story's only getting wilder, don't miss a moment. Or if you want something with more punch, want more Dutton drama and exclusive updates? Hit subscribe on our Nextdoor channel, because around here, the land always has more to say.